One decision in 1793 changed history forever. A young Napoleon stands at the brink, watched by a hidden architect. In the chaos of the French Revolution, chance and strategy intertwine. Battles won, not by mere luck, but by calculated precision. The hidden architect's plan unfolds. Each victory a carefully placed domino in a grand design. By 1795, Napoleon's star rises rapidly, yet, beneath the surface, psychological forces shape his trajectory. The architect understands his ambition, his flaws, his vulnerabilities. This knowledge is the key to controlling his fate. The Italian campaign of 1796 to 1797, Napoleon's military genius on full display. But was it genius, or a script being followed? The architect's influence remains unseen, yet the outcomes are precisely as predicted. In 1798, the Egyptian expedition, a bold move, seemingly driven by Napoleon's insatiable curiosity. Yet, the architect sees it differently. This is not exploration, but a test, a way to gauge Napoleon's true intentions and capabilities. The coup of Satu-de-la-Pan-Brumaire in 1799, Napoleon seizes power. The revolution is over, but a new era begins. The architect's plan moves to the next phase. The stage is set for the creation of an empire, but not just any empire. By 1800, Napoleon consolidates his power. The architect's influence becomes more subtle, yet more profound. Every policy, every decision, is shaped by an unseen hand. The empire is being built according to a hidden blueprint. The War of the Third Coalition in 1805. Napoleon achieves his greatest victory at Austerlitz. The architect watches with satisfaction. The path to dominance is clear, but the true goal remains hidden, even from Napoleon himself. The coronation of Napoleon as emperor in 1804. A moment of glory, a moment of power. Yet, the architect knows that this is not the end, but a means to an end. The empire is a tool, a stage for a grander plan. Throughout these years, from 1793 to 1805, the events seem random, chaotic, but the architect sees the pattern. Each victory, each setback, each political maneuver is part of a larger design, a design that will reshape the world. The psychological forces at play are immense. Napoleon's ambition, his charisma, his flaws, all are understood and manipulated by the architect. The rise of the empire is not just a military or political phenomenon, but a psychological one. The architect remains unseen, unknown, yet their influence is everywhere. In the strategies, in the politics, in the very fabric of Napoleon's rise. The sudden victories sent shockwaves through Europe's capitals, shattering centuries-old alliances and plunging the continent into a state of utter confusion. Leaders who had once believed themselves untouchable now watched their empires crumble before their eyes. Their grand strategies reduced to scattered fragments of a shattered dream. The psychological fallout was even more devastating than the military defeats. Generals who had once commanded legions now found themselves paralyzed by indecision, their minds clouded by a strange sense of disorientation. The rapid succession of victories had created a vacuum in their strategic thinking, leaving them adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Napoleon's inner circle, once a tight-knit group of trusted advisors, began to fracture under the strain of their unprecedented success. Old rivalries resurfaced. New alliances formed and dissolved in a matter of days, and the once unbreakable bonds of loyalty were stretched to their breaking point. The very men who had helped build his empire now became its greatest threat. The first political solution proposed by his advisors was a grand alliance with the Eastern powers, a move intended to secure his flank and open new fronts against his enemies. But the timing was disastrously wrong. The Eastern powers, still reeling from their own recent defeats, were in no position to commit to such a bold initiative, leaving Napoleon's forces exposed and vulnerable to counterattacks from the rear. The military decisions were equally catastrophic. Napoleon's generals, eager to capitalize on their recent victories, launched a series of ill-conceived offensives that stretched their supply lines to the breaking point. The soldiers, once proud and confident, now marched into battle with a sense of foreboding, their morale shattered by the constant string of defeats and the growing sense that their leader had lost his touch. By the way, if you like this discussion, don't forget to subscribe. There are many more interesting topics coming up. Lightbulb.
There was a twist in the narrative that few at the time could have predicted. A single, calculated manipulation by an unseen hand had orchestrated these disasters from the shadows. The seemingly random sequence of events that led to Napoleon's early failures was, in fact, a carefully choreographed sequence designed to achieve a specific outcome. The architect had been playing a game far larger than anyone realized.
The first catastrophic failure came at the Battle of the Fog, a name that would forever haunt the annals of military history. What began as a promising offensive quickly descended into a chaotic rout, as Napoleon's forces became hopelessly lost in the dense fog that had unexpectedly descended upon the battlefield. The enemy, meanwhile, had been waiting in the shadows, their positions carefully chosen to maximize the confusion and panic that inevitably followed. The psychological impact of this defeat was immense. Napoleon, once a figure of invincibility, now found himself questioning his own judgment. His confidence shaken by the unexpected turn of events, his generals, who had once revered him as a military genius, now began to doubt his abilities, their loyalty waning with each new setback. The once mighty army, now demoralized and disorganized, was no longer the force it had once been. The second twist came with the revelation that the fog itself had been deliberately created, a chemical weapon deployed by an unknown party to ensure Napoleon's defeat. The enemy had not merely been waiting in the shadows. They had been actively manipulating the very elements of nature to achieve their objectives. This was not just a military defeat. It was a psychological assault designed to break Napoleon's spirit and undermine his authority. The political fallout from these events was immediate and severe. Napoleon's allies, already shaken by his recent failures, began to question their commitment to his cause, their loyalty eroded by the growing sense that he was no longer in control of his own destiny. The internal conflicts within his inner circle intensified, as old rivalries resurfaced and new alliances formed in the shadow of his declining power. The once unbreakable bonds of loyalty were now fraying at the edges. Decades after Napoleon's reign, the true impact began to unfold across Europe. Borders shifted, cultures blended, and nations were reborn. The ripple effects of his decisions spread like wildfire, transforming the continent forever. In Spain, the Peninsular War left an indelible mark on national identity. The fierce resistance against French occupation forged a new spirit of unity and defiance that would echo through generations. Meanwhile, in Germany, the Napoleonic Wars sparked a surge of nationalism. The Prussian reforms and the wars of liberation laid the groundwork for a unified German state decades later, forever altering the balance of power. The Congress of Vienna attempted to restore the old order, but Napoleon's influence could not be erased. The new borders and political arrangements were subtly shaped by the seeds he had planted years before. Italy, fragmented and weak, saw a renewed push for unification in the decades following Napoleon's rule. His conquests had exposed the weaknesses of the old states and inspired a vision of a united nation. In Russia, the devastating invasion left scars that would take generations to heal. The trauma of the war fueled a period of introspection and transformation, reshaping the nation's identity and destiny. The Napoleonic Code, exported across Europe, became the foundation for modern legal systems. Its principles of equality and justice, though controversial, would influence legislation for centuries to come. The rise of nationalism, fueled by Napoleon's conquests, would eventually lead to the unification of Germany and Italy. These powerful new nations would reshape the map of Europe and the balance of global power. The Industrial Revolution, accelerated by the demands of war, transformed societies across Europe. Napoleon's conflicts had inadvertently spurred innovation and economic growth, changing the course of history. The long-term effects of Napoleon's reign extended beyond Europe, influencing colonial empires and the emerging nations of the Americas. His vision of a new world order, though incomplete, left an enduring legacy. it became clear that Napoleon's empire was not merely a series of military conquests. It was a carefully engineered psychological experiment, designed to reshape the consciousness of entire nations and generations. The butterfly effect of Napoleon's decisions continued to resonate for decades, shaping the political, social, and cultural landscape of the modern world. His influence, though subtle, was profound and far-reaching. The profound realization dawned. Napoleon's legacy was not just in the battles he won or the territories he conquered. It was in the enduring changes he wrought, the new world order he helped to create, and the psychological landscape he forever altered. The year is 1815. Napoleon is not in exile. He sits in a palace, dictating the future of Europe. But this timeline is not our own. A secret architect pulled the strings, ensuring Napoleon's ultimate victory. That architect was not a general or a politician. It was a philosopher who understood the human mind better than anyone. His name was Claude-Henri de Rouvroy, the Comte de Saint-Simon. He believed society could be engineered like a machine. Saint-Simon's philosophy was simple: replace old power structures with a meritocracy of scientists and industrialists. He saw Napoleon as the perfect tool, a military genius who could smash the old world and build a new one. Saint-Simon's followers infiltrated Napoleon's court. They whispered advice, shaped policies, and guided his hand. The result was the continental system, a blockade against Britain, but it was more than economic warfare. It was a psychological weapon. Saint-Simon designed it to unite Europe against a common enemy and forge a new identity. Napoleon's empire collapsed in 1815, but Saint-Simon's ideas did not die. They spread like a virus. His disciples, the Saint-Simonians, became bankers, engineers, and politicians. They built railways, canals, and corporations. Today, the European Union is the legacy of Saint-Simon's vision, a united continent, governed by technocrats, not kings. Hi everyone! Quick reminder: subscribe for high-quality daily content. Sparkles don't miss out. Subscribe today for exclusive content tomorrow. Wrapped gift.